Hi everyone, welcome to Confidence Leads to Success with me, Elif Köse. I have got yet another inspirational story and inspiring story for you. But first of all, I'm going to talk about systems and how we do certain things repeatedly and then we don't think of them, but we just keep on doing. And I have got an expert in her field and to talk about how you can help your business and systemize your operations and create like a blueprint for your business to make it so much easier to take off all that overwhelm and stop procrastinating. Hello, Layla, how are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me here, Elif. I am excited to talk about all things systems and the confidence that goes in them. I'm really excited to be here today.
Thank you so much, everyone. Layla Pomper is a process-driven entrepreneur and she is very good at it. And this is why she's on this interview to share her journey and how she started and why she's doing what she's doing to make you the success that you deserve to be. Layla, tell us how you started your journey.
Oh my. So I started this journey by accident. We're talking about confidence here. Let's start with that.
I love
Um,
that.
I started out wanting to just have my own business. I just wanted to get out of the corporate life. I started off by helping my spouse start his business, well, my now spouse. And in that process, I discovered the world of virtual assistants, which many of you are probably familiar with, those people that come in and do the things you don't want to do.
I
Well,
couldn't
that's
do
how I
without
started.
mine.
Yeah, they're invaluable. And that's why I think it's such a
Absolutely.
great place for people to start their journey. And like many people here, I started off thinking, you know what, I'm going to take that as my first step into this self-employment world. I started as a virtual assistant, undercharging, over delivering, working too hard for too little, like many people probably do. And over time, I just kind of narrowed it down and observed where I could add the most value. And I ended up in this space of systems and processes by seeing what actually made a difference and what I liked as well.
That's so good. Honestly, I mean, I couldn't do without my assistant. She is like, the godsend, as they say, and it's like, you're right. There are certain things that I had to be done in regular basis, um, and I didn't like doing them. And I noticed that there were the things that was slowing me down, and those are the things that I could do with help. They were my weaknesses. And when I somehow got to meet your perfect, your presence, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need to have this woman on my platform because we need your view and share why it's important to have like this systemized and create like an operation.
Yeah. And, I'll even share a little bit. I think my journey might help people understand, systems, operations. You talked about having a virtual assistant who does tasks for you. That was very much the world I was living in. And the reason I started to get into this space is because I noticed that people would throw my time as their virtual assistant at problems that wouldn't be there if there was a better process. We just throw labor, we throw hours, we throw money at problems because we don't want to actually fix what's the root of the problem. And when I discovered that, and I realized, if we just build a system that prevents this issue, well, that's more valuable to solve. But by solving those issues as a VA, you actually get rid of your own work. So there's a conflict of interest there. And that's how I ended up specializing. So for folks who might have a hard time conceptualizing, what do we mean by operation? Just think about it as like, how do issues come up and how do we prevent them? That's what that process piece is about, is that issue prevention versus just throwing more water in a leaky bucket.
I get it. I'm just so this is really good. I love it. So we're, like there are so many things. So does that mean that what you create is always individual, like created for the individual's needs, created for individual business? Is it kind of a system that it just happens? It sounds so amazing. I need it.
Well, you know what's funny is when I first kind of discovered this corner of the world, that's exactly what I did. I started working with people and trying to help them prevent the things that were causing chaos. And over time, we actually worked it into kind of a flow that people can walk through on their own. So right now we work through with folks through kind of a membership model where we teach people how to do this for themselves, because even working one-on-one with somebody, I'm not in their head. The bulk of my time when I was doing that work one-on-one was helping people think through what they want their business to look like, to feel like, to operate like. And I would go a step further, not just saying that this is a personalized process, but this is a personal process. How your business works, how you answer the phone, how you respond to emails, how you handle a customer complaint. These things are so personal that now we're at the point where we're actually just teaching people how to do it for themselves. Because I think our business, this kind of process stuff, should all be a reflection of ourselves. And so to do that, we all need to know enough to be dangerous, to be able to speak that language of process and build our hopes and our dreams and our values into our processes ourselves.
Wow. And have the confidence in your business and what you want.
Such a big piece of this, because to own this, you have to say, you know what, I'm going to take charge of how my business runs. And I think so often for fear, for lack of confidence, we put our head in the sand around this issue. And the best example I can think of is when people hire a virtual assistant and they hire somebody, that's a process, that hiring and training of somebody. And they expect this VA to change their whole world because they hear that, it changed Elif's life. Layla likes her VA, but they don't know what they're doing. They bring someone on and it doesn't go well. And rather than having the confidence to say, you know what, I owned that. I set this person up for failure because I didn't know, what I needed. I didn't have that
Yeah,
understanding.
I'll,
Instead,
I will, I will share my own journey. My
please.
first ever virtual assistant I hired, I thought that was it. Like you said, that's it. Now I have VA. Everything will be fine. Everything will be in order. But she didn't know what I wanted. She wasn't in my head. She didn't know how I saw my business. But I couldn't communicate that well enough. So I thought she was not good enough. But I noticed later on that it was my leadership. I didn't tell her what to do, as in not what to do. She couldn't see my brain. So I
Yeah.
expected her to just know, and she didn't.
And I can add a layer onto that and just say, you might have been afraid to say. We're all
Yeah.
afraid of being the micromanager, or we don't know best, or who am I to say how they should fill this out? I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of fear that goes into that as well, that you need to have that nice defining line. But I think the study of process and the practice of process is kind of like any other skill, like leadership or delegation. All these are little skill sets. We need to practice it to get there. But when we stick our head in the sand and say, oh, that VA, she must have just been the problem. Instead, let's start looking at it as a process problem, as a skill we can actually improve by finding that line for ourselves of, what do I really expect? Why do I expect this? How can I communicate that to somebody else? And really thinking about how we behave in our business as this machine that we completely control, for better or worse.
It's so amazing. And the time that you would save rather than thinking over and again for the same thing, I feel that it will be so much easier.
Yeah, there's that efficiency argument. Uh, Process at its heart, I think this space kind of started off with like this very masculine, like efficiency, productivity, whatever thing. Um, but there's so many benefits of it. There's that feeling of being heard, right? Your VA understands you because you took the time to help them understand. There's that feeling of teamwork because they know what's expected of them. There's softer benefits in addition to just the efficiency, which is why I think it's an underappreciated form of expression that every business owner or team member has the opportunity to use, but we just don't realize it's there.
I love it. I mean, how you were a VA yourself doing like people's tasks for them, the things that they usually didn't want to do themselves or they weren't good at themselves. And then you turn that into a system now is like a real success. Honestly, I congratulations for what you've achieved, and like you say, you're kind of taking your own money out of your own pocket to create something that is bigger, and it's the very courageous move for you to do it.
I, we were talking before we started recording about, the courage and then the journey to success and that confidence thing. And in hindsight, yes, it's been a huge move over the last few years for us here. It's been scary, but in the moment, the only thing I was thinking about was just a step. I think in hindsight, decisions look like these big pivots of VA to consultant to membership, host. That all feels very big and definitive. But at the time, it was just one small decision to not take on that client or one small decision to try that project. And it was that series of small decisions that really led here, which is why I told you at the onset, it's all been a series of happy accidents. You don't need as much confidence to make a small decision as you would to make a huge decision. And I think I just refuse to think about huge decisions because I don't, I view it all as these small incremental steps.
It can be scary to make decisions, especially, until we're 18, our parents have made decisions for us. Then you go to university, your teachers make decisions for you. And then if you're in female world, if you're a woman and you end up having families make decisions for you, and if you're coming from a country and family like my background, that a lot of like you don't even make a choice for yourself, which had happened to me over 15 years ago now, that I realized that I wasn't making any decisions for myself. So I think that is a big step, for businesses to make even small steps to make a bigger impact. And when it comes to confidence, I think a lot of entrepreneurs at the beginning of their journey or in the middle, or like we say, it's a journey. There is just never an end. You will always challenge yourself. You will always, if you're feeling very comfortable, ladies, that means everything is going too good. You've got to challenge yourself. You've got to step up, not just for you, for people who would benefit from the things that you're offering. So, Layla, I'm going to ask you, I'm just very curious that if I know you would have to be here for probably hours to explain us, but just if there was like one thing that you would say that this is how you would systemize your one task in your business, what would that be? Just to give an idea to listeners, if this was something that they would need and contact you.
Yeah, I would start off by saying everything you do in your business and you do it the same way multiple times, every habit you have is a system already. So when it comes to
Like
systemizing,
sending
sending an
emails,
email.
newsletters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's use a newsletter as an example, right?
Okay.
If you send a newsletter to your audience, say it's every month or so, that right there is something you already have a system for because you do it. And even if you've never really thought about it, you have some kind of habits as to when you write it, what tool you use, all of that. So if I was going to systemize that process, I'd start off by just figuring out what, when, and who. So a newsletter, that's the what. When, every month on the first Friday, and who, me. And I could make a fancy task for this in some kind of project management tool, or I could just make a sticky note on my desk. But either way, I've taken the first step towards systemizing because I've at least identified this is a system. This is a budding process I can systemize. I've identified it. Once I feel pretty good about the what, when, and who, and I'm doing that on a regular basis, the next step I would do is start writing down some steps that go into this. So maybe every time I have a newsletter, I want to outline it first. Then I want to proofread it. Then I want to check all the links. And then I want to, do a split test to see which color is going to work better. Those are the 4 steps. So now I've gone from knowing what I need to do, when and who's going to do it, to also knowing how I'm going to do it. And once I've got the what, when, who, and how, well, maybe it's time to reevaluate the who and see if my VA can do this. Or maybe I can use templates to systemize things further. Maybe I have a newsletter template I just fill in the blanks for so it doesn't take me as much time. Once I figure out I have a process, then it's just this matter of making it easier and more me each time I do it.
Brilliant. I love it.
It's
It's
simple too.
it's simple. It's simple, but it's you got to do it. Like somebody probably is saying, "Yeah, but who's gonna sit down and do the what and when and how and outline?"
But it doesn't have to take long, It's yeah,
Exactly.
I say 10 minutes. Get for 10 minutes to get all that done, and then it's there. And you never have to remember on a Saturday night, oh my gosh, I forgot about the newsletter yesterday because I had to pick my kids up from school and the
Yeah,
day just got away from me. You don't have to have that mental stress anymore because you have it out of your head.
brilliant. It is so good. I love it. Ladies, if you're struggling with your scheduling, with your operations, um, honestly, Layla will be, will just follow her. She's brilliant. Her content is great. Her service is absolutely amazing. So I ask this question to everyone I interview. So, what does confidence mean to you, and how could one have it?
I prepped for this question a little bit by watching your other interviews to try to get it, to do my research. And I was thinking about this, and to me, I view confidence as accumulated trust. So whether it's confidence in myself or somebody else, it's kind of this buildup of a series of events where things happened and the outcome was something positive. And I think when it comes to yourself and you're trying to build confidence in that relationship with yourself, I would go back to that view of tiny decisions. It's really hard to have confidence in your ability to do something that is miles away, which is why I'm not a big one for goals. If I were to sit here and say, I want this to be a $10 million business, my confidence in that is a little unknown because that's a lot of distance between here and there. But if I take things at a smaller scale and, I attach building confidence to small things like, hey, I'm going to do this interview and I'm not going to feel nervous about it. I'm just going to enjoy my time with Elif. That is something that I control that I can then look back on next time I have an interview and say, hey, look, the world didn't crash and burn. Elif is super nice, all this stuff that I can start to use that to build up my confidence for next time. So I think there's a lot of conversation around confidence is something you have or you don't, as if it's like a binary thing. It's something you have to fake or have, but really I think it's cumulative. And my confidence, playing sports is a lot different than my confidence in things that I've committed to building confidence in. And it's just these piles that you can accumulate by being committed to practice.
Committed to practice. I love that. Yeah, some people have it, some people built it, some people fake it till they make it. Pick your choice.
Exactly. Just, I think what we often don't do is we don't appreciate how much we should already have. When we, I think with fake it till you make it, it's sometimes we treat it as if it's this distant thing that we need to just fake until we're at that
Yeah,
point. But I'll tell you what, being 10% to that point, that's pretty good.
yeah.
20%, 50%. I think we should appreciate that as well.
Amazing. Thank you. I mean, I've interviewed amazing women in the last 2 years, and some of them were like BBC presenters, and singers, actors, are authors, and we always seem to have an issue when it comes to confidence. But the one of the biggest reasons I started create interviewing women like yourself and everyone, just to show to anyone who's holding back from their dreams to create the life they desire because they haven't got the confidence to go for it, to just tell them, just you can do it one small step at a time. Let me tell you something. When I arrived here in the UK, I couldn't speak a word of English, but I used to have word of a day. Every day I would learn one word at least. And look at me
Yeah.
now. I
Step a
speak
day.
and interview people in English. I know I make some grammatical mistakes, but who cares? I say it too quickly so nobody notices.
I think that's all it is for any of this. It's all this incremental thing. I started a YouTube channel 18 months ago or so now, and it was terrifying. it was
It's a
terrifying.
great
And now
channel,
that's,
though. I love it.
well, people say that, and I'm still like, really? Because the journey was just that of clicking record on my phone, and an old flip phone, and uploading it with no editing, and just being like, I don't know, I'm just gonna try this. And each time it got easier. Each time I learned a new
Better.
word in the vocabulary, and I would be nowhere close to here if I just sat and waited to figure out how
Yeah.
to do video editing before I posted one video. That's
So,
exactly, you have to start.
yeah, the question is really like, can you afford to stop living your life? Really, can you stop to live others' life, the decisions that they make for you? So it's all about you and just be you.
Yeah. And no one's going to care if you don't do a great job. My first YouTube videos were terrible. Your first, sentences trying to go to the supermarket were
Yeah.
probably not ones that you would say now,
I
but
remember couldn't
you'll be
even
fine.
ask a chicken sandwich. I kept telling her I want a kitchen sandwich, and this woman was looking at my face going, "Kitchen sandwich?" She was probably thinking she wants to come to the kitchen and make herself a sandwich. But it was hilarious. But now I look back and laugh at myself, and it's a great story to tell at my interview.
And you have to wonder how many other things or how many other skills you would be able to have that experience with if you just committed to being messy for the first, 6 months or
That's
whatever it is
right.
that you're trying to do.
That's
Um,
right. Oh my goodness. I love talking to you, Layla. Thank you so much for coming. If is there any question that I missed asking you that my speaker, my listeners would love to hear?
Um, I think one question that just may be helpful, or one piece of nugget I'll just share, is that
Please do.
even still, so we're talking about like confidence for success and all that stuff. I constantly feel not confident with things I do every single week, even YouTube videos, having done them for 2 years now, every single week producing content like this, always feel nervous. I always feel, lack of confidence for some reason or another. But I think the difference between myself today and myself when I started this journey is appreciating those moments as opportunities to build the confidence. So that's the only piece I would share, is just that you're never done. And anytime you feel that pain, as you said earlier on, that if things are too comfy, you're not working hard enough or you're not pushing yourself, same thing. You need to seek out those moments of being uncomfortable to actually ever grow your confidence in an area. And I think it took me far too long to recognize that, because I think I used to think the opposite was true, that those successful women up on stage, they just practiced and practiced until they got it, and they're never nervous again. But that is the absolute opposite of what the truth seems to be.
It is so true. Love it. Thank you so much, Layla. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you with us. I will share all your contact details, your links to how anyone who's listening to contact you and hook up with you. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you.